Hey guys, many people who are even a little interested in motorcycles have heard about all-wheel drive motorcycles with a 2x2 wheel configuration. In this video, I'll introduce you to the features of their design and main concepts, as well as some models. Make yourself some tea and get comfortable. Let's get started. The first attempts to create 2x2 machines date back to the 1920s and 1930s. Enthusiast engineers experimented with production machines. The first all-wheel drive two-wheeled motorcycle was made from a production British Raleigh back in 1924. The machine was used for training and remained the only experimental model. And here is another one of the first all-wheel drive motorcycles from 1934 with a chain drive to the front wheel. The creator was a certain Bertold Eriksson. However, the problem was combining a soft front wheel suspension with the drive. The breakthrough was made by Raycon, who appeared in the United States in 1960. In this motorcycle, the engineers solved the problem radically by abandoning the spring suspension of the wheels. The front wheel was driven by a combination of chains and gears, and a fairly smooth ride was provided by very large, low-pressure tires. Raycon is still being produced today, without much change in its design, and it remains relevant among certain groups of motorcycle enthusiasts. In the 1980s, various inventors and major companies like Suzuki experimented with different front-wheel drive systems for motorcycles. They tried all sorts of things like cable drives in a sheath and hydraulic systems, but nothing was perfected, let alone put into mass production. By the way, Raycon experimented with hydraulic drive systems, but they stuck with chains. Around the same time, in 1985, Yamaha started working on a front-wheel drive system. The process was slow and wasn't publicized anywhere. It wasn't until 1998 that the Japanese showed a prototype of the exotic two-wheeled machine at an exhibition, continuing to experiment with the design. In 1999-2002, the all-wheel drive Yamahas performed quite well in rallies, and each time these were motorcycles built on the basis of various production models of the company. Nowadays, there are more 2x2 models, and the technology has advanced as well. Now I'll present the main concepts of all-wheel drive motorcycles. So the first and probably the oldest one, mechanical drive of both wheels using chains, gears, and shafts. These designs are the most common and are primarily used in all-terrain motorcycles. This includes the legendary Raycon, as well as Russian small-batch models like Taurus, Ataman, Vasyugan, and others. The design is extremely simple: a basic frame, a power unit with an inertia clutch, a transfer case with several speed modes, wheels often with low pressure for better off-road capability and greater comfort, and no wheel suspension. The chain drive to the rear wheel is straightforward. A chain is also installed on the front wheel fork, and torque is delivered to it from the transfer case via shafts or the same chains running along the frame. And steering is possible thanks to a constant velocity joint. More complex designs with mechanical drive involve having soft wheel suspensions. For example, the all-terrain vehicle Diversant NEXT. It has soft suspensions, and the wheel drive is implemented with variable length drive shafts, which made it possible to use shock absorbers. Modern Raycons are also equipped with suspensions. Alexei Gorogashian and his incredible creations deserve special mention, in particular, his two-wheel drive motorcycle Bailey. By the way, BARS also allows for the possibility of installing a front-wheel drive, and it seems there was such a custom-made creation. And the family of all-wheel drive motorcycles Tsivar comes from Ukraine. They were produced by three enthusiasts, Hryhory Humeny, Boris Ivashchuk, and Oleksandr Ivashchuk, and the motorcycles were named after their great-grandfather. It's a tribute to their ancestors. If you want a detailed story about the Turnipol homemade bikes, let us know in the comments. Also noteworthy are the modified motocross enduro motorcycles with a mechanical drive for the front wheel, as well as some concept models. Here's an example, the company Suzuki. In 1986 at the Tokyo Motor Show, they presented the futuristic all-wheel drive concept Suzuki Nuda, The drive for both wheels was implemented with drive shafts. The engine was taken from the sport bike GSX-R 750. The Suzuki Nuda could theoretically reach a speed of 175 miles per hour. It never went beyond the concept stage. In 1991, Suzuki presented as many as 3 motorcycle prototypes again. These were the utilitarian XF4, the ugly bastard XF4 25, and the Enduro XF5. The front-wheel drive system of the motorcycle consisted of a telescopic drive shaft running along the left fork leg. The shaft itself was powered by a chain system. The entire construction added 7.8 kilograms to the motorcycle's weight. The American company Christini is also well known. It specializes in producing motocross and enduro motorcycles with a 2-wheel drive system, using a design very similar to what Suzuki developed back in the early 90s. Here's another interesting custom build based on KTM, created using a slightly different design. In this creation, Marty Lowson and his father used a rather complex lever system with a monoshock to maintain significant front-wheel travel. A similar suspension system was developed early on by a BMW engineer named Hosuk. KTM had to pay for all-wheel drive with an extra 13 kilos. The second system appeared a little later. Hydraulics. By using hydraulic motors and a closed fluid system, it's possible to transfer the energy from the internal combustion engine to the wheels. At the same time, the use of hydraulics in the design involves flexible hoses, which make it possible to use suspensions with a fairly large wheel travel. A striking example is the 2-track system from Yamaha, which was first used on the Enduro model WR 450F in 1999. The system uses a hydraulic pump located above the gearbox, which is driven by a chain from the engine. The pump is connected by flexible hoses to a hydraulic motor located in the front wheel hub. The power transmitted to the front wheel is inversely proportional to the speed of the rear wheel. The more the rear wheel slips and loses traction, the more the hydraulic system increases traction in the front wheel. It can transmit up to 15% of the motorcycle engine's power to it. And conversely, when the rear wheel regains traction with the road, the system smoothly reduces the power sent to the front to prevent skidding and swaying. The drive to the rear wheel is done in the classic way, with a chain. This approach makes it possible to modify almost any production vehicle. Yamaha 2-wheel drive performed well in Dakar. The rider, David Freitigna, despite having no Dakar experience, was the leader on the muddy French backroads. And only when the mud ended and the desert began did the KTM team take the lead. In the deserts, the all-wheel drive Yamaha was losing to its competitors because of the extra weight. David even fell several times, unable to hold the heavy motorcycle that was getting stuck in the sand. Nevertheless, David finished 7th in Senegal, the best among non-KTM riders, winning 3 stages. Besides Yamaha, hydraulic modifications of the KTM Adventure series are also well known. The Austrian company began implementing the hydraulic system as early as 2004. When it comes to hydraulic all-wheel drive motorcycles, the creation of the Australian Ian Drysdale stands apart. The Drysdale DriveTech 2x2x2, created in 1990, is the most all-wheel drive motorcycle in the world. Not only does it have hydraulic motors in both wheels, but the wheels also turn. Yes, you heard right, both wheels turn. This is made possible by a hydraulic system that connects the handlebars and the wheelmaster cylinders. One of the features is that you can't roll this motorcycle with the engine off. The wheels simply won't respond to the handlebars because there's no pressure in the hydraulic system. And finally, one of the newest technical solutions is electric drive. Against the backdrop of all the difficulties with mechanics and hydraulics, today's hub motors and controllers look very promising. This setup involves using standard frame and suspension components during construction. Yamaha presented an interesting futuristic concept on this topic. The PES 2 model is equipped with an electric motor in the frame with a belt drive to the rear wheel and a hub motor in the front wheel. And to assist the rider, Smart gloves and a smart helmet are included. The concept was presented to the public at the Tokyo Motor Show in 2015. And here is a more utilitarian example of a two-wheel drive electric motorcycle. I think this concept is the most interesting for do-it-yourself enthusiasts. UBCO 2x2, which was presented to the general public in 2018. Each wheel of this little guy is equipped with an air-cooled electric motor with a total power output of 2 kilowatts. The UBCO 2x2 electric bike was developed by Antony Slade and Daryl Neal from New Zealand. The concept is designed for farmers and rural residents, as well as fishermen and hunters. It can also be used by the police, firefighters, emergency medical services, and the armed forces. The all-wheel drive electric motorcycle boasts a range of 70 to 100 kilometers off-road and up to 150 kilometers on the highway, as well as a top speed of 45 kilometers per hour. Despite its modest appearance, this electric motorcycle has a load capacity of 174 kilograms. As for hybrid technology, KTM patented a concept with a front-wheel hub electric motor back in the mid-2000s. Strangely enough, the BMW tuning studio Wunderling picked up the same idea as the one previously patented by KTM and applied it to the BMW R 1200 GS. The modern generation of batteries, generators, and electric motors installed on the hubs shows that this is definitely the future of motorcycles. The question of controlling the power of the front wheel remains, since its speed and torque must be comparable to the rear wheel. But this problem is solved by modern software and electronics. Let's sum it up. All-wheel drive motorcycles are quite a specific type of machine. As you can see, they haven't gained sporting fame. For rallies, their weight turned out to be excessive. That's why classic enduro bikes dominate there. But in the niche of various types of off-road assault, two-wheel drive motorcycles are very popular. And as you can see, for the most part, these are homemade builds. This video is coming to an end. I tried to briefly cover the topic of all-wheel drive motorcycles. If you think the video is worthy, support it. You know how? It's not hard for you, but it gives me motivation for future projects. And don't forget about the link to Mikhail's channel and support him as well. This was the Krasmodo channel. See you next time.